episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I'm your host, Eric Smith, and today I'm talking about Blister by Jeff Strand, and this is from Sinister Grin Press. Now, this is the story of Blister, but it's also the story of Jason Trey. He's actually our main character. He's the guy telling the story. Jason is a cartoonist. He's got one of those, daily comic strips in the newspaper, and he's doing pretty well for himself. But at the beginning of the story, he gets into some shenanigans that cause some trouble. I'm not going to tell you what it is because it's absolutely fantastic and you're going to have to read it for yourself. But he gets into trouble, really pisses off his agent. His agent wants him out of the limelight for a while. Excuse me. So the agent sends Jason to a cabin in some little town just to get away. So Jason goes up there, takes his dog with him, does some fishing, just kind of relaxing for a little while. One night he goes to the local dive bar and he starts playing pool with a couple of guys, doing some drinking. And eventually these guys are like, hey, we need to take you to go see Blister. And Jason's a little buzzed, so he goes along somewhat reluctantly. And they end up out in the middle of nowhere, it seems. And there's a house and there's a shed behind off to the side of the house. They sneak up to the shed. And these two guys are telling Jason, go on, look in the window. You got to see Blister. So he looks in the window and he sees this horribly disfigured young woman. And he freaks out and he runs away. And the next day he wakes up and he just feels absolutely horrible about it. And he feels the need to go to apologize. And that basically covers the back copy of the book. That's all it tells you. And that's just the beginning of the story. But that's pretty much all I'm going to tell you. Maybe a few things I'll drop in here and there. But right off the bat, fantastic. Another fantastic novel from Jeff Strand. Now, Strand is primarily known, I think, for his horror comedy. Things like Wolf Hunt 2, which I've reviewed, which have lots of violence and horror, but also lots of comedy. And for the layman, I think the best comparison would be something like Shaun of the Dead, where the mainly what's going on is horrific, but it's the characters and some of the comedy of error type things that make it funny. Very, very funny. This is not one of those stories. There are some funny, lighthearted things in here, but it is not a comedy by any means. It's not a traditional horror story either. It is a very nice, heartwarming story with some horrific things that happen. It's an interesting combination. Excuse me. So the characters are fantastic. Jason Trey, sort of an everyman. He's a smart ass, which is why he gets into trouble in the first place. Because, again, something he does that I think is absolutely hilarious. But it does cause some trouble. So he's a very interesting character. But the standout, of course, is Blister. Her real name is Rachel. She's 23 years old, and she has had something absolutely horrible happen to her. And she could just be this sort of pitiful character, but she's not. She has a strength to her. She also has vulnerability. She sort of owns what has happened to her, leans into it, but it's almost a defense mechanism. She's very sarcastic. I absolutely love the character of Rachel / Blister. And that's one of Jeff Strand's strong suits as a writer, is he makes fantastic characters. Rachel's father, a really good character. Frankly, I think Jason calls Rachel's dad an asshole throughout the whole book. And he is to a point, but I don't think he's as much of an asshole as Jason does. I mean, something horrific has happened to this man's daughter. he goes overboard in protecting her, um, but it's out of love. He loves her, and something horrible happened, and I think it scares him. He's afraid his wife has died uh, sometime in the past, before the events of the book. So he's already lost his wife. He doesn't want to lose his daughter. So yes, he does behave like an asshole occasionally, but I don't think he's as much of an asshole as Jason does, which to me, excuse me, is an indication of the strength of Strand's writing and his characters. Um, just the fact that I could think about it this much. The sheriff, interesting character. A lot of the other people, really just good characters. Um, his writing style is very clean and simple. And I don't mean that in a bad way. You can just fly through this. It's straightforward storytelling. Not literally, because there are sort of flashbacks where people tell, like after Jason goes to apologize to Rachel slash Blister, um, he starts to get to know her, and eventually she tells him what happened to her. So we have this sort of flashback. So again, not completely linear as far as storytelling goes. Just the storytelling style is straightforward, is what I'm saying. Um, and there are a couple times where we get that sort of somebody is telling Jason what happened in the past. Um, so we have these sort of flashback chapters. Um, but just another winner for Jeff Strand. Just absolutely fantastic. Again, it's heartwarming, and it's heart wrenching, and it's horrifying, and it's satisfying. Um, and so Rachel, because of her disfigurement, will when there are people around, she will wear masks, and she has one when Jason sees her for the second time. When he goes to apologize, she's wearing a mask. She has a mask on. So my rating, another more crappy drawings, but I went with 5 out of 5 sort of plastic or porcelain masks, um, sort of generic face masks, kind of like I imagine Blister is wearing. But 5 out of 5, because this really, I didn't want to put it down. I wanted to know what happened next. I wanted to see the relationship between Jason and Rachel grow. I wanted to know, um, I wanted to learn about all the things that were being hinted at. There are twists and turns. I wanted to find out what was going to happen. Jason starts to get to know Rachel, and they become friends. He wants to spend more time with her, but there are people in town that think that's a bad idea, and they're trying to get Jason out of town. Um, I don't think I'm giving anything away there. So, but that just it compels you to keep reading. Why do these people think it's a bad idea? Why do they sort of want Blister hidden away? Besides the obvious reason. Um, but it seems like it's more than that. It's not just because she's horribly disfigured. They seem to want to forget about her. Um, and yes, the incident, what happened to her, is sort of a black mark on the town. I guess you could look at it that way. I mean, technically, it would be a black mark on the person or persons that did this to her. But I guess in a small town, people think it reflects on the whole town. I don't know. But anyway, all this stuff going on, really compelling. Um, and really, it's the characters that push this story forward, that make me want to read, even without all that other stuff. Without all the twists and turns, I would be happy just reading about the friendship between Jason and Rachel. They're such great characters. The interactions between the two are very entertaining. So obviously, I highly recommend this. Blister by Jeff Strand, Sinister Grin Press. 5 out of 5 blue plastic face masks. So I guess that's it. I will have links, or at least one link, for the book in the description below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put them in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. So if you want to know what happened to Blister, well, read the book. Don't ask me in the comments. You got to read it. It's fantastic. It's a fast read. It's 270 pages. And it really just flies by. It flies by a little too quickly. I could have spent more time with these characters. But anyway, if you have any comments, questions, corrections, put them in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I guess that's it for this episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I have been your host, Eric Smith, and until next time, read more books.